Welcome back to the Amazon European Masters Semifinals, where LDLC once again showcased that losing the first game means nothing to them. This time, they managed to shut down Jackspektra and get ahead through topside, then even out the series in a 1-1. I gotta say, yeah, I mean, Jackspektra again on the Draven. Scary, not too scary. What was even more scary was Aatrox.
Yeah, because we saw what happened in game one. Huge snowball performance out of Heretics. It was largely through that bot side, and it was the top side that was kind of like left to just exist on its island, as top lane sometimes does. But one thing that we were missing from game one was Yike and Ragner really having an impact. Could not be any more different in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Yike was willing to go into these skirmishes. We even saw there was that level 1 where he managed to get the smite advantage, and it's because Velkoz can't perform well with all those dashes. But here, it was Ragner who stepped up massively, right? They commit so hard to try and get the kill onto this Velkoz, and then the fact that we see Ragner get 3 kills here, the game is just over for the top lane.
But this is what Heretics do. They buy into these fights. They love to scrap. A lot of our ARL teams do, but when you do lose them and you keep doubling down, it goes from bad to worse. And when you have a hugely snowballing jungler like the Velkoz, it gets from bad to worse, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of want to talk a bit more about, you know, Renekton and Aatrox in particular, because we've seen that matchup quite some time now, but it always seems to be in favor of the Aatrox.
Well, I think in an individual 1v1, left alone, I think Renekton has tools to beat the Aatrox because you can dash through that first Q, stun them up, take a burst of trade, and dash out. Typically, Renekton has found ways on an individual level to deal with that Aatrox. But if you ever get behind, when you dash in, you just lose the damage trade.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Aatrox is in such a strong position right now. And the thing is, like, you know, a lot was invested by LDLC. This was like their priority pick they took. They gave over the Draven to secure this Aatrox. But like the Renekton, the whole goal was to mitigate it, right? I don't really think that Ibo came into this expecting to stomp the matchup, but that is just a complete example of it being blown completely open. And we saw from the game that clearly the focal point for Heretics was to try and lean bot, but that didn't quite work either.
I mean, it kind of felt to me, and I know what you think, Amira, is the fact that bot lane kind of panicked about top lane just like, I don't know how to put this nicely, but top lane was struggling.
Yeah, it really was. And when you see the top side on fire, you have to go find yourself a bucket somewhere, and they tried to put all of their eggs in the Jackspektra bucket in this case, I suppose, but it got a bit desperate. It got a little bit imprecise, and this was one of my worries heading into this series. Even in their quarterfinals, we saw that Heretics had some more scrappy games versus the Unicorns, and LDLC are really, really proficient at taking those mistakes and running you through with them. That's exactly what we saw around bot side.
I mean, particularly with a pick like Draven, where you lose so many if you stack, 75% if you die, mis-execution on plays like this, like the one before, whiteinn taking aggro before running through the tower. Here, the tower not diving. This felt like Heretics were just making misplays, and LDLC were there to pounce immediately.
I mean, that's what we said in pre-show, right? LDLC are really good at punishing your mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you can see again in that, like, it's a whole map flowing in motion too. Suddenly in that last play, you can even see the Aatrox turning up yet again. It's like, oh no, that monster at the top lane turned up to the bot side too. So you can't even like play away from this very powerful champion, LDLC, maneuvering their power point around the map. And as much as you're trying to get this Draven into that snowball position, they weren't allowed to.
Oh, I thought you wanted to say something else.
I mean, covered it well.
Eventually, we kind of have to bring up the discussion. Should we leave out the Draven, Og? Should the Draven just like, yeah, you know, it doesn't do anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, you still saw the Draven had a pretty large amount of lane pressure, especially because they went for that Braum, which compositionally worked well, right? You can shut down the Draven's axes, and with things like the Renekton and the Trundle, they'll struggle in team fights into it. But the lane was rough. We constantly saw them have that pressure. The thing is, the lane doesn't really matter that much for Draven if you aren't able to capitalize on the cash-in and move it in the mid-game. And it eventually got to the point where LDLC was so far ahead, it just didn't matter.
I mean, it got from bad to worse eventually.
Exactly, because once this huge collapse has happened on the top side, and then actually it affects the rest of your map, when you finally go in towards the team fights, which you want to start playing around with the Victor and the Karma, dealing with these grouped up moments, it gets really, really difficult. And even we can see that, right? Renekton going into the backline, getting isolated, doesn't have the stats to outplay it, and then there's so much mobility left on the Aatrox, on the multiple dash Velkoz at that point. You can't really disengage from those fights either.
I mean, and to give a bit of an Ox analysis, that's how you like to do it, Ox. Just don't feed Aatrox.
It's that simple, honestly. Or maybe take the Aatrox yourself. That might be a prospect as well, because We do know that Heretics have gone once again for blue side, the same site select 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
They could opt to prioritize it. They could opt to ban it. That's the thing. I feel like you have so much more freedom on blue side to ban these targeted picks.
Yeah, and I know that we were definitely talking about the Aatrox as this power pick. Also got to talk about the person piloting it as well.
yeah,
because Ragner
100%.
had such an impressive game. First game, we talked a lot about Jackspektra. Wow, this Draven, comfort pick, snowballing, doing all the right stuff. Same thing, different player, different champion on the opposite side of the map.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like a big testament to the fact that, you know, there was even numbers in the eventual play that happened on the top side. This was just him finding the edge, and then as soon as Yike started to pour resources in, the Herald came down. He really ran away with the game, constantly in team fights in the solo lane. Every opportunity possible, he pushed ahead.
I'm just gonna say it. This shouldn't be allowed. This thing here, that's not okay.
I mean, I think it's even more impressive because we don't really see Ragnar that much on carry-orientated top laners. He's mostly on the Ornn, the Sejuani, that kind of champions. Now, if we look at how Game 1 went for LDLC, you know, that post-game breakdown wasn't all too pretty. It kind of went like, how do you say it, downhill or uphill? Because
Depends on perspective.
I mean, for me, uphill feels worse going uphill.
Yeah, so this was game 1. And you can see, okay, cool. Wow, that's actually a really short game, over in 23 minutes. Wow, look at the gold graph and look at the damage. Aatrox running over things, bot lane running over things. Right back at you.
Yeah, just the pretty much the other side of the equation, where LDLC find that early momentum and the game is just completely out of control. The damage that Ragnar did was kind of outstanding, but yeah, 2 extremely fast-paced games, both of them around that 24-minute mark, and it kind of feels like the team who takes the reins, who gets that pressure early, is able just to find so much momentum.
Is it all about the Aatrox, though? Because the Aatrox in both games seem to be, you know, pretty strong.
Now, I think Aatrox is one of the most powerful picks in the meta, particularly when you have a lot of enchanters on bot side too, because Renekton, that's another champion in the meta. Not the Aatrox, though, because what Aatrox has, when he pops his ultimate, he gets bonus increased healing from all sources. We saw stuff like the Soraka coming out from various teams earlier into the tournament, and the ability to just play around this unkillable topside beast has been very, very difficult. Now, I do think there are answers into it. I'm surprised we haven't seen more Fiora this tournament, actually. Fiora's actually been a decent Aatrox pick. I know that's seen a lot in the LPL too, in some cases too. It's also not a bad blind pick, but as we've seen, I think the teams are just so comfortable playing around this all-encompassing team fight snowball pick that it's very hard to give it up.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Fiora is that, like, if you have a Fiora player or someone who's comfortable on it, that's why you see a lot in the LPL, not so much in other regions. If you have someone who's willing to bring it out, it can be devastating, but performing in team fights is a bit more nuanced. And also, I've even seen, like, recently in the LPL, we had Rich up against Arla playing Aatrox into Fiora and winning the matchup just because he outplayed it. I feel like as much as it's a strong lane matchup for the Fiora, it's not a guaranteed win and there's a lot of risks involved.
I would still take it over Akali.
I mean, yeah, I mean, yesterday...
Look, I have a list of things that take over Akali, if I'm going to be real.
So now, looking at this series, we have been tied up. LDLC got to the 1-1. This next game feels very important to me. I don't know how you feel about this, Ox.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like both teams have sort of had some learnings from the 2 games, but they've been very stompy, right? I'm interested to see what happens when both teams have, you know, maybe win conditions not on the same side of the map, and we see them both try and play through those and then end up with a more even mid-game, because right now it's just been stomp.
Yeah, now we've got the draft up on screen, so let's go refer back to that as well, because we're talking about different power points around the map. LDLC do have that ability to play through multiple lanes. They've shown what they can do towards that top side now, particularly with Yike, with his comfort picks. I mean, even in draft, you saw the casters calling out the Kha'Zix. That's just another thing in the back pocket. This jungle has an incredibly large champion pool. But LDLC, now they've had that first game, that slap in the face, they're starting to wake up and say, all right, okay, let's see where we can shift things around to give Heretics some problems.
I kind of want to pick into Yike here, because Yike, in his first game, played Vi, got completely shut down. Now he gets the Belva, gets to play the game. It's something we've seen in the series against Dusty as well. Is like when he gets his carries, when he's able to do anything, he just takes over the complete game.
Yeah, I think the Wukong and the Viego were the big picks for him in that series up against Dusty, where when he found the momentum, when he's able to contribute in the skirmishes and start to get the ball rolling, you can see the momentum it brings. And particularly, like, I mean, it's very typical of like farming junglers who have a fast clear. But any jungler, like if you get fed, if you get extra items, you clear faster, so then you'll get more gold.
To be the work like that,
and it's just like you snowball so incredibly efficiently.
Elgoya likes this.
Yeah.
So Heretics have chosen blue side. Are we happy with that?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think we can talk about the draft a lot. I think when it comes to it, though, Heretics made a lot of mistakes in Game 2. For me, you can't address everything through draft. There does need to be an assessment of what's happening with these very snap decisions. Game 1, we saw them firing off in their favor. Game 2, obviously that kind of fell apart from them. They doubled down on losing plays. Game 3, I'm not going to say stop making those aggressive, snappy, skirmishy plays, but you got to make sure they're the correct ones. Otherwise, you see what happens when those mistakes come in.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to look at draft and say, look, they lost because of this draft, or this draft was bad, or whatever. But there are obviously circumstances where draft makes it very hard. There has to be some level of accountability if they play. And I think particularly in that game 2, that came down the play that really cost Heretics that one. So I think blue side, there's still a lot of flexibility. There's the opportunity, you know, start to target away some of those picks. We've seen things like the Draven, things like the Aatrox, these signature strong picks in the meta be so impactful. And I think blue side, you have the freedom to maybe tone those down from what your enemies can pick up.
Also, fingers crossed top lane doesn't end.
That'd be a start.
Game 3 is coming up, and although it's 1-1, it feels like Heretics has to work out something new. Let's see what they come up with. Initialize, what are your thoughts on this?
That is a very good question. Heretics and LDLC now evened up 1-1. 2 games with bluntly snowballs either way, but that last game, let's be real, was first gank top lane, netting the enemy Aatrox 3 kills, Bel'Veth getting both heralds, and the bot lane tower being MVP for LDC. And Jamada, I need to know.
I think the bot lane tower was wearing an LDLC jersey
a little
at
bit.
this point.
I mean, quite literally, it was on their side.
True.
Obviously, a lot of that, as the Death was saying, as Orcs was saying, was on play bluntly from Heretics. How much do you want to see change in terms of draft, and how much do you think is just play bluntly?
I mean, I feel like Game 2, definitely Heretics made it a bit hard for them to play the game in the mid game, but I don't think this is all draft. I line up quite well with Orcs, actually. I think a lot of this did come down to play, but actually from the opposite side, I really liked how LDLC adapted and expected a lot of the plays that were going to happen, especially just the level 1 through 3, right? They had the ward in the river, it got swept. Oh no, I wonder what's going to happen. Smile, and they get late invaded, but they have the adaptation for it. They start the wolf camp, they have the level advantage, and then they just snowball it from there. Simple as that.
I'm just so glad to see Yike on a Yike pick. This is a player who I had down as arguably the best jungler in the ERLs, period. Like, this guy is so good. And he's on one of his signature picks in that Bel'Veth and starts off the snowball so beautifully. And obviously we said in the draft, oh, the card's getting banned away. I wonder whether he goes towards it. Does so and gets it rolling. Trouble. Do you think he can keep doing that, or is that something that can be dealt with a bit more? Because you saw there was another attempt at an early invade from Heretics. It just didn't work out as well this time around.
I mean, you have plenty of picks that you can pick. Yike on, he can shine, right?
Sure.
If he wants to, he can even resort back to the Graves if he wants to in the jungle. But
sorry,
are
you okay? Did you just recommend a Graves pick?
He can do it. I didn't say that I condone Graves picks. I said that he can do it, okay? But the fact that we have seen from LDLC the adaptability, the fact that they read how Heretics wanted to play this game, and the fact that through the draft, Heretics were willing to sacrifice that bot lane kill lane to make it a priority lane, it spoke miles to what they want to do towards the bots on the map. And I think now the ball is in Heretics' court. Can you adapt, knowing that LDLC knows exactly what you've been doing in games 1 and 2? In the second game, they countered you.
Series is even. Sides have not switched this entire series so far. The bands are staying the same. Both teams sticking somewhat to their guns. Heretics win this series. They go to Phase 4's BDSA. They can be the first LVP team since 2019 to go forwards. LDLC want a rematch with BDSA. Aatrox is the first pick.
Firstly, Trouble, again. Really good call. On the Aatrox first pick. I was going to say,
in the green room, literally.
That was when the game ended.
Exactly. So at the very least, I wanted to say, I think maybe drop the Draven priority. I think you've tried to run it now. It's not worked. In that particular facet, LDLC going again towards the Caitlyn, I want to actually see, honestly, just full topside play, actually. Swap up from Heretics from game number 2. I would be very, very happy to see a full, hey, let's make this Aatrox absolutely slam everybody in the game. And now the immediate response is actually Yike on his Viego.
It's something he's so famous for. And of course, if Ika goes towards his Ahri, something he's so famous for, that double reset option between the mid jungle, it's made very popular in spring and still has some potency here in summer, even if it is significantly less popular than it once was.
It's really fascinating how both of these junglers serve completely different roles. Yike is a little bit more of a, I'll farm my jungle, I'll carry it later on because my team is just such a strong wall in the early game that they will not fall, so I have the time to do this in my jungle. On the other hand side, Heretics live and die by bluerzor sword. If bluerzor cannot be aggressive into this early game, get these ganks down towards the bot side of the map, it feels like Heretics kind of fall apart. So right here, I'm really loving... Okay, third time's a charm. I really love the fact that bluerzor has gone with that Poppy. You can tower dive pretty easily with the champion. You can try and get that bot in the head, but for the love of God, no more enchanters next to that Draven. You need to be able to reach the Caitlyn. You need to be able to reach whoever's underneath this this tower. Go towards that Leona, Nautilus, anything that can play aggressive with the champion.
The Poppy and the Aatrox are a good start to help with that, and it's something that can be pretty aggressive on the invade, but a way to potentially prevent the easy engages is something like the Tahm Kench, but instead it's DOS back on the Braum. Had such strong performances so far in the Amazon European Masters playoffs. To be his second time in 3 games, he'll be picking this one as well.
Yeah, you know, I was wondering whether or not LDLC would drop the Rakan ban out of the 2 bans that they had from game number 2 and go towards the Karma instead. Obviously, still have room to do it, but they've banned away Karma this time. Will they go for that? I'm trying to kind of ban this time around Heretics now. I think you're really just looking at mid laners, potentially rather top laners, I beg your pardon, that you don't want to have to run into. I feel like removing away the Ornn would kind of be a given, and then you kind of just go for something else that maybe you're fearing Ragner would go for in the counter matchup like this Fiora. And I think that's a pretty solid read from Heretics.
I think you go for the Karma here if you're Heretics. You're kind of really low on that engage/spill potential, because who's going to be reaching the Caitlyn, who's going to be peeling the Viego off of your Draven. There's a bunch of stacks that are going to be coming in through the Braum as well. So LDLC are like, we're more than happy for you guys to pick the Karma away if you so wish. So Rakan is one of the stronger enchanters you can put against an aggressive bot lane champion such as the Draven or the Kalista, and it's been banned away. So right here, you can actually try to pick something like the Renekton if you want into the Aatrox. We mentioned how the champion does have the tools to play the 1 versus 1.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me right now is that LDLC don't really have engaged tool. Oh, wow.
All right,
Okay.
it's not BDSA, but clearly LDLC have picked up a thing or two from their
the
LFL
Dusty
brethren.
series.
Exactly, I think it's Dusty, exactly, Kerberos, big Darius aficionado. And we've had a few of those. Ragnar will be picking up this time around, trying to counter the Aatrox with the Darius.
Trouble's really upset.
She's not happy. It's not locked in.
Locked in, Trouble. It's,
So
a
it's just a Victor, where it might still be locked in. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that they hovered it might, well, they've been hovering quite a few funny things so far in this draft, so maybe just a throwback and they're going to swap up. We'll have to see, but Zwyroo on the Victor this time around. We'll see how he gets on with it this time. A lot more space buying from this mid lane mage. It's being hovered again. Now,
Trouble's blood pressure's done for. All right, that's it.
How about flip the table, man?
Please don't. We've got to use
I think
these.
it's rooted to the floor.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
quite
think
screwed
okay.
down. There's a lot of like PCs
really
and stuff in
difficult.
here as well. That's quite an expensive table flip.
Oh,
go on.
That's
Yes.
so cool, actually.
No.
I really like this because realistically, everybody on Heretics is super immobile. And now you have this massive, what, like 3-second, 4-second cooldown cage once you've actually got
And what's your
CDR?
engage tool if
I
you're
mean,
Heretics?
If you're Heretics, you have no engage tool, sure. As LDLC, you don't have an engage tool yourself. You can have pseudo ones where you kind of force the issue with things like flash apprehend or flash brawl ult. But I think the fact that if you're just in front of an objective first or in front of an area you want to control first, the ability to just drop down the event horizon and say, hey guys, have fun, move forward through us, is so powerful.
I feel also like these tools that you just mentioned are so potent to take in towers as well.
Yes.
So add this next to something like a Caitlyn is just so easy for you to push down towers and lanes. And also, if suddenly your opponent wants to start charging at you, you've got so many tools to peel off of them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, looking at how Heretics maybe want to approach some of these fights, they're going to have to get super creative and try and find angles from Ibo to actually split the fight apart or ensure that, you know, Event Horizon can only be placed in one spot, right? It can only be one way. I think you really have to try and, you know, go at it from 2 different angles. Otherwise, if you're LDLC, you're happy to take the front and back simply because, hey, Vega's just going to melt whoever gets caught into it. Oh, hello.
Hello, everybody. We've got ourselves that is Trouble's frustration with the Enchanter alongside the Draven is now well noted. Okay, I'm going to let them play Hangman. I'm going to say that...
Need to tilt it a little bit.
hey, production, can I get some new color casters? Because these two have clearly lost it. We're only 2.5 games in. We're heading on to the Rift for game 3 here, and just look at what LDLC has drafted. You've got so much zone control. You're walking into Decimate, Apprehend, the Viego, who's so good into that. You've got the Cage from Veigar. You've got the Traps from Caitlyn. You've got the Braum. nightmare for Heretics to
And now
walk
the
into.
one thing I really want to see is how LDLC adapt from the level 1, because they had a very good read on Heretics in game number 2, and was maybe thinking they would go for a late invade here or just a straight up invade. They've got a ward on a red, but I think you look to both sides. They have the strong level 1 from Yike and Ragnar, but they also have the strong level 1, in my opinion, from Yike, Exakick, and DOS. You can see, actually, Heretics have a similar idea to, at the very least, get some vision down just to see where the jungler will start for this Viego.
I think Yike should start probably bot side of the map yet again, because you have the Draven and you've got the Karma. They're going to have priority towards the bot of the map, and they're going to bleed the vision. They're going to bleed that pressure into the bot part of Yike's jungle, as they always do, right? So this is again very predictable, really well read by the side of LDLC again. Now, I want to tell everyone to go grab blankets, drinks, and popcorn, because when there's two compositions with no actual hard engage, it's about to be a back and forth fiesta in the team fights, because none of them will be able to engage, and whoever runs into each other first ends up paying the blood price.
I raise you another Ragnar triple kill. What if it happens again? Maybe.
I don't know, man. Eyebrows on the Aatrox this time.
We had a whole graphic for Ibo's Aatrox, and it was pretty deadly. In fact, you know, Ragnar returned the favor with a triple kill early on that led to an 850-odd DPM game on the champion, which is doing very well so far in the series. Of course, Ragnar has gone towards this counter pick to try and hold it to account. We'll see whether it works out. Darius has been a little bit of a mixed bag at the tournament, sometimes really popping off and sometimes looking a little less than devastating.
I think one thing I'll always say about a pick like Darius is, even if it doesn't always have the most explosive laning phase, as long as the rest of the map actually isn't falling apart, all it takes is one guillotine execution for him to just immediately start rolling through a team fight. And I think that's always the irritating thing about playing against this pick in competitive play. Even if you don't shut it down, or even if it stays even, it's always relevant, because as soon as that 5th stack starts to come through, you immediately have to play the team fight differently. You immediately have to just back away to ensure that Darius is not looking to take over the entire team fight.
And now, very cleverly, Sorry initialized, they have actually moved in. Zwyroo moved in and warded the chicken camp right there from the side of Heretics, which means that they do know that Yike is pathing all the way to that top side. Of course they knew, because that red buff ward did not spot him in the very early seconds. But look what's happening again, bot side. I mean, are we surprised at this point?
No, I mean, Heretics always bottom side focused. They have an idea of where Yike is. They know if they make this dive happen, there is not going to be a response. Yeah, maybe. I mean, one thing I was actually looking at is Exakick has teleport, so even if you murder him, he's going to come back and probably still catch some of the wave. We'll see how this one plays out, though. A level advantage from the bottom lane.
Start your engine, stun into the wall, no combat summoners. It's not a cash-in for Jackspektra. It's instead whiteinn. They can still redive, but whiteinn, that tower has not been your friend. Here comes the teleport back. It does flashing away, trying to get the kill. Can't quite secure it. bluerzor secures it, but none of the kills are cashed in. No! It'll be a 1-for-1 at the end. It's still DOS who ironically picks it up with the ignite, so supportal combat. Still a 2-for-1 in favor of Heretics.
I think Jackspektra must be, I don't know, the most unfortunate Draven of all time. 3 kills have gone down the bot lane 3 games in a row, and whiteinn has been the one to cash in on all 3 of them one by one. But again, that was a much better play towards the bot side of the map. They didn't commit into the invade, they committed into the dive, shutting down that Caitlyn, trying to get those early kills into the Draven. Yes, it didn't happen, but you've taken away the summoner spell from the Caitlyn. You end up killing DOS as well, so that's 2 kills, 2-1 from the side of LDLC. And LDLC, only the support managed to get a kill off.
Yeah, I mean, bluerzor, I think the idea was, hey, let's see if we can bully Exakick again underneath the tower, so it turns around, but still has the ignite ticking and a tower shot kills him. Now there's a red buff invade. This is such action going on. It's Yike that secures it. So bluerzor's going to be the knight, and look at the CS difference actually from Yike and bluerzor.
That's what you get for committing to a full clear versus making sure the early dive comes off. Look at the top lane, though. There's been a ghost blown for a flash, and that is a dangerous thing to trade with Darius. Now has the option to try and look for that apprehend and the kill should the level 6 come through. No teleport, of course, for Ragnar. So his reset will cost him just a little. But that summoner discrepancy may come back to bite Ibo as the game goes on. And I'm going to take this moment here as well to remind people that basically the games have gone by whoever wins the early game, whoever wins the jungle pressure. And both Yike and bluerzor have been really trading out in the jungle so far. Invade for invade being traded off. There's a nice cage in the in mid lane, rather.
It's a 2-level discrepancy in the jungle, though, and even the bluerzor has tried to be the more active one. Ragnar still has flash.
I don't know how much you want this flashing for the decimate, but now he's going to try and make it happen. Here comes Yike there. Oh my god! Double apprehend! Yike gets -1, and now bluerzor has to back on out of there. That does not go well.
Well, I guess now bluerzor can catch up with some of the wave. I mean, actually, Ibo's going to teleport back. I mean, look, rubber banding XP, smile. I guess that's what he's going to be looking towards, but Yike is going to be a monster.
Yike is going to be absolutely a monster right here because LDLC, we said they're so good at absorbing that early game pressure. That's what got them through the LFL. That's what won them the finals. There are not that many teams that can break them in the early game because they just read them so well. bluerzor, again, he has been a monster, being all over the map, but by doing this, you're missing out on a lot of experience and gold, and a level 3 versus level 5 Viego that comes towards the top side of the map. I mean, this is only gonna get worse and worse for instead of Heretics, and even though, yes, you have pinned that Caitlyn underneath the tower, it doesn't really matter. You've got 3 more carries towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, you have to really feel for Heretics at the moment. Sure, Jackspektra, he's doing his thing down here.
100 gold. It's great.
Gold. It's an okay gold lead.
All right, there's the passive stacked. Not going for the execution quite yet. The health bar is a little low for Ragner. Over comes bluerzor. Now that blue rubber banding has actually got him up 2 levels.
It's broken.
There you go.
I'm telling you, it's not a balanced mechanic.
That is a lot of CS discrepancy as well, and yet still at level 51.
I hate the jungle role for players.
We both play
like
it.
Aren't you a jungler?
Yeah.
We're both junglers, but that's actually Ragnar with the level. I don't know how much damage bluerzor is just doing passively. It's
Ragnar
quite a
missed the
lot.
heal from
That's
the
pretty
Q.
big. So much damage coming through. Gonna try and turn this one around. Oh my god! No! Misses the apprehend. Should still now go down. My days, Ragnar. Nearly got away with murder there.
Oh, I screamed like a little girl. I was so
clenched.
scared for Ragnar got the first execute as well. You could maybe expect him to take down Ibo. Remember, the Conqueror was stacked up as well. He could have healed through.
It's not
now
done.
It's turned into an invade.
They know bluerzor is topside. He has
he's
a
dead.
3 cents.
He's dead.
Struck through the heart. Yikes to blame. Gonna take the blue buff and move on there. I'll leave the Bon Jovi references alone for now.
I'm just gonna say right here
Why
that
not?
Yike is one of the best junglers when it comes out to choking out his opponents off of golden experience. Once he's ahead on his farming champions like the Belbeth, like the Viego, he just never lets go of the gas pedal. He tracks always where the opponent jungler is, and he just takes his advantage straight into his opponent's face. And right here, I wouldn't be surprised if he did the chickens and just straight up entered river again. bluerzor is still level 5. With just cooldown reduction boosts.
He could consider it because Ragnar still has Ghost and the armor.
Yeah.
He didn't get to use it. And now he's starting to
Dos
see a bit of a
is there
late
too.
rotation here. Dos is on his way. The Herald will go the way of Heretics at the very least.
Too late.
A little bit too late, but I mean, honestly, I would fear for Heretics if it was LDLC who were able to get a fight off in that moment.
Well, certainly debating, but Ibo now in a 1v1 versus Exakick, who did not want that one. Flash pop by the Caitlyn.
Honestly, for me, a whoopsie from LDLC to not move into this river, having the stronger members towards that top side of the map. They did have Dos right there as well. Brom is broken in these sort of situations. You apply your stack onto someone, that someone gets run down. And they also have Eika level 8. That ultimate from Veigar does so much damage when people have so little resistances and HPs onto them. Now Dos heading towards the top side.
Trying to make sure he can help defend this Darius. It will be a 2v3. Ragnar lands the apprehend, but the renewal afterwards means Ragnar has to back away. Eika now roaming up alongside Yike! Jackspektra cashes in. The execution ensures that Draven's brother feels the price indeed. It is a blood 1 and now 1,000 gold the lead for Jackspektra over his lane opposition.
Hold on. That was an even gold difference between Draven and Caitlyn. Suddenly there's 1,000 gold
out of nowhere
towards Jackspektra out of nowhere. And mind you, the way that ultimate works is the more stacks you have, the more the execute scales with the stacks that Draven is holding. So if you were surprised by how Ragnar died from 30% HP, that's how he died.
10 minutes of stacks.
I was literally about to say, wow, this is the closest early game we've had. And then this plays happen and Jackspektra has 1,000 gold lead.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to look at the execute really, right? Ragnar gets hit by a bunch of poke, 2 axes, 300
You're not
damage.
30%, okay, I misjudged.
You know,
That's pretty close there.
300, take off 1-0, slap a % in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
And in fairness, there was still another half of that ultimate to come through, right? So he could have pulled that blade straight back and done increased amount of damage. The Eclipse now completed as well. That Draven is online.
Honestly, Ragnar tried to do something very clever right there. He used his Q to try and clear up the minion wave and then apprehend Draven underneath the tower to possibly try and force a flash. Unfortunately for him, 1 minion survived, which meant that Jackspektra did not get any aggro underneath that tower. But again, very well done, trying to get ahead onto this Aatrox, onto the Draven. Back to the Aatrox, though.
Yes.
This has been a champion that has consistently been getting ahead no matter which team plays him in this series. There hasn't necessarily been one champion in a 1v1 that has shut down that top lane, wherever the champion ends up being. And honestly, if it continues being a problem, I wouldn't be surprised if for the rest of the series it would be one or straight up back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see it. And I was going to bring up the fact that this dragon hadn't been taken down in over 10 minutes. It's been taken down relatively early this series, but throughout a lot of the Amazon European Masters, it often goes a little bit unchecked. But Heretics have their first.
There's production sorting us out there. Ivo back on that Aatrox. We saw Ragner pop off in it the last game.
Making this a 4-0 by now.
Hey, I don't want to derail the cast or anything, guys, but the fact that Cloud hasn't spawned in yet, I'm here to chill it until the end of the cast.
We were trying to make a point about how strong Aatrox is, and maybe Ivo can pop off again, and this is where you take us.
You know what? It's very unfortunate. When Amir is here, people just permapick Ari. When you're here,
I get
Cloud Soul keeps popping up.
Is there like a casting cult of Cloud Soul?
Do you know what it is?
And I'm sitting here, and I don't even get a Katarina hover anymore.
All right, look, actually, back to the game, because bluerzor is trying to force into a lane because that Herald is running out. If you take a look at the bottom side of your screen, it's only got about 30 seconds or so left. So I think, judging by his movement, mid lane is probably where you want to go towards. I think, like you made the point earlier, could have actually got cancelled, but he makes it out in time. Herald's going to come down. I think they might be able to kill it if they don't. Oh my god! No! Yike used Heartbreaker to not get knocked back by bluerzor. That was sick! Oh my god! Yike!
Hats off! Yikes! This guy's so good.
I'm actually taken back by that. That was so cool. Good job, Yike.
Smooth.
Holy moly.
All right, well, we're on the press. I was about to say something more, but the Herald just falls out like that.
It's not often you like all three of us just stunned by the fact that Yike just outplayed
this guy's so good.
It might be Heretics with 800 gold in the lead, but LDLC have got the mental edge here.
They do now. Yeah, after that.
I mean, what a player Yike is as well. This guy has pub stomped LFL. Like, he is so good. He, Sheo, a few of the other LFL junglers are truly spectacular, but for me, Yike has been right at the top of that table for a very good reason, and he's on one of his signature picks in the Viego. Just knows the ins and outs of this champion, pulling off a little play like that, one of those small mechanics that allows that Herald to not come off. Huge stuff for LDLC.
And not only does it save them gold, but also it just saves the possibility of if Heretics either siege later on in the game or just so happen to get the second Herald, all of a sudden that mid lane tier 1 is no longer a foregone conclusion. And as you was going to say from last game, it's bastion of safety when you have these wave clear mid laners.
Another massive stun. Oh my god! The burn's not quite there, but whiteinn taken down to a sliver of HP.
Also, what I want to comment on that Rift Herald, usually when that Rift Herald does not return you any more gold other than the gold that it will return you when you kill it, you've spent so much time on the Rift trying to take that Herald down. bluerzor was under-leveled, he hadn't reset on the map, so you have sacrificed a bunch of tempo to take that Rift Herald for it to not cash in anything for you.
I want to turn your eyes down towards that bot lane again, because that 1,000 gold lead has disappeared. Caitlyn just had so much free time with that turret cashed in her cull, and is now basically back to even as well. So Exakick right back in. Of course, the Caitlyn hasn't necessarily snowballed as we've often seen when Caitlyn's been priority back in the past. But that's still cred to LDLC for kind of stalling out what was looking to be something of a slight snowball from just a few minutes ago.
Honestly, what I find really interesting from LDLC, they don't necessarily use the Caitlyn as a tool to siege towers, because if you look around the map, you have so much damage in general that is AD from the Viego and the Darius. They use her as a neutralizer to the short-range carries that Jackspektra can pull out, the Kalistas, the Dravens, the Lucian, who was banned in that case, right? So they use it as a neutralizer to stay safe, to be able to take any offense underneath her tower and actually come out and scuff on the champion. And so far, LDLC have used this to perfection.
Yeah, they have, and I want to see how they use it in the mid game, right? We already spoke about being first at the objective for both of these teams with a lack of engage on either side, especially when you've got Event Horizon from Eika is going to be absolutely huge. Caitlyn kind of fulfills the same kind of role too with those traps. You just kind of trap up every single entrance, and all of a sudden you have to just eat the poke from one of your frontliners, or you can't really gain access to the river ever.
And speaking of events on the horizon, it's a minute until a dragon coming up, and that might be where we start seeing those abilities used to set things up. Yike, though, maybe looking to preempt the setup by going for a dive, but bluerzor here as well. A 3v3, but Yike flashes for a Spectral more, and a reset traps come in afterwards, and it's 2 for LDLC in a matter of moments.
Perfection, perfection. They're ahead of the play. LDLC pulling another dive. Jackspektra loses his stocks again this game. Last game, he kept losing them over and over again. It didn't pan out well right here. Caitlyn is ahead 600 gold. Remember that 1,000 gold that Jackspektra cashed in? We'll wave goodbye to that because she's going to have to farm a lot more to get that. Oh,
Ragner does land the apprehend. Won't stack too much more. And this game has felt very back and forth. We've seen slight leads for Heretics, and now it's inverted right back towards LDLC, about 1,000 gold. But a teleport coming through. Ibo pops the world ender, needs to get over the wall. I don't know whether he's going to get out of there. Exakick with the teleport and the blast cone denial. It's a 1v4, but there's a glacial face back over the wall. I think you might have been worth just giving it up, mate. Nowhere to go. Cute, but not cute enough.
I will get out somehow! Ibo shouts. But too many members, too many angles. And now this actually buys Heretics.
I pranked you!
And I buys Heretics the ability to just get this dragon. LDLC actually going to poke their heads in, but I think it's too little too late. It's a cloud dragon. In your face. I'm here.
Okay, we're gonna fight. Never mind that. I literally looked away from the screen to like sigh at Jamada, and they gonna kill while it was happening.
Kind of in Doss's face.
Kind of in Boss's face. Yeah, that's quite unlucky. Replay. Topside play. But do we have to?
Yes.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna give F for effort to Eyeball right here. Because he's trying to go right, he finds someone else. He does it through the wall, he finds someone else. He flashes back in, there's someone else. He's like, how many people do these guys have on the top quadrant? Like, how many do they need to defend that red buff anyway? Very unfortunate from Eyeball right there. But he did keep 4 members occupied on the top side of the map, while he's still about 40 CS up on Ragnar, and his team managed to take the second dragon of the game, which is a pretty good win con to have in the game if you're Heretics.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually want to kind of start to talk about the state of the game now that we're approaching the 20-minute mark, because for me, Eika has been very silent in this game. And you know what? When you're on a champion like Veigar, you don't mind a quiet early game if you just get to sit there and scale for free. All the passive stacks he has to have at this point, he's probably chilling at like 300, 400 AP alone.
In fact, production, can we have a look at those Veigar stacks? Not checked in so far into the game. Be nice to see where he's at in terms of the AP.
Yeah,
166 right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's just got Everfrost and a Needlessly Large Rod, and he's got 315 AP. He is vibing right now.
Yes, the Primordial Burst is going to live up to that last part of the name. Looking more like an Execute right now as Ibo does finally get that tier 1. So Heretics on the board in terms of towers, and it keeps the gold relatively even right now, despite LDLC feeling like they're the ones who've been the proactive members of the last few fights. Important to note, though, that is Heretics that have stacked the early 2 dragons, so they are on track for something like a Soul Wing condition. They do actually, for as much as I hate to admit it, probably use the Cloud Soul pretty well.
It's pretty good stuff.
Okay, is this gonna hit the tower? I want your predictions now.
Yes. Yeah. Come on.
Look, it's fine. I believe in it. Okay, it does hit the tower. And the thing is, I was slightly nervous the moment we brought it up. I was like, yeah, it's going to hit for sure. It's like, have we cursed this?
Maybe, what if it doesn't? Maybe, like, I
That's
could...
why I didn't speak.
Like, I could just instant transmissions to the Herald, puts the event horizon down. You're not going anywhere, don't move.
Oh, dear.
Makes the charge, though.
But again, we talked about these 2 compositions, the fact that they do not have, unfortunately, a hard go button from any side. This is why they keep bouncing the waves back and forth. The fights that they have found have been in very small choke points in the jungle, when people do not have the wiggle room to move around and maneuver around all these, not auto attacks, but poke that's coming out from either something like a Victor or a Draven or an Aatrox. On the other hand, you have the Veigar and the Caitlyn. So they're trying to pivot in a way where they can actually find fights, and when you do have a Poppy and you're Heretics, these fights will be around that jungle where there's a bunch of walls, when you can try to find that E on a wall, stun someone, have everyone follow up on them.
Yeah, Heretics really, what they need to do at this point is just try and find priority where they can and ensure that they try and put LDLC on the back foot always. Because whilst I can say Heretics into a lot of the, or rather LDLC into a lot of the Heretics tools, they can probably approach and make a slow advance into any controlled territory by Heretics. I feel like Heretics can't really say the same thing on the opposite side. If you have to check into Event Horizon from Veigar, all the Caitlyn traps, DOS existing as Braum, it's just too much to walk forward. It's so tricky. And again, going back to the point I made all the way when we came into this game, Heretics, if they are the ones on the back foot, they are really going to have to try and get creative and make sure that they're not always approaching at one angle. They have to try and come in 2 different sides. The only issue is you'd expect Ibo or bluerzor to do that, but those are the frontliners for Heretics. So if they are making that advance on different sides, all of a sudden, Zwyroo, Jackspektra, and whiteinn are left pretty much to the wolves.
It's been a very close game indeed. Neck and neck in the gold. It's an advantage for Yike versus an advantage for Ibo. Both players very capable of carrying games, done so this series already, and it may well be on them to make it happen. They are the ones with the leads right now, and maybe eyes on the bot laners as well, looking to get towards those third items ASAP. Death cap nearly completed for Eika, where Zwyroo has already got that Banshees in, so with a Cloud Dragon on the table in 45 seconds. Eyes on the river, eyes on the setup. Trouble?
And this is why a lot of the times we say that dragons are win condition for a team, not necessarily because if you take the soul, you win the game. Right here, Heretics with the two dragons have bought themselves 10 minutes of time.
Oh, that combo is so brutal. bluerzor flashes out, but a primordial burst takes him out. The massive whirling death shuts it down. Jungler for jungler, there's no smites on the board. They were smited instead by their opposing numbers. Chaos Storm comes out and tracks DOS down to 20% HP. Tower in mid lane at sliver HP, but we've seen that haunt Heretics just last game. And Horizon misses this time around, and it's a 4v4 in the mid lane.
I was about to say, if Heretics don't fancy fighting that, they do not have to, but they do strike back. Both junglers down. Teams are still gonna move into towards that bot side river. Heretics are more than happy to allow LDLC to advance on them.
They do, but LDLC, they can still put down things like the Event Horizon, make things awkward. They're going to try and start this dragon up, and you can see... Aibo, he's looking for this angle, wants it.
So dangerous, level 14, the Gordrake complete, and the other one's keeping an eye on his course. This Victor's Zwyroo so deadly already. Aibo being engaged on so much damage, he's going to try and get the wall there, but he's stunned his place. Ragner gets that one, bluerzor has respawned. Dragon is secured by Victor. They're on soul point, but they lose the additional member. Can they get out, though, is the question. whiteinn trying to get out. Ragnar is just chasing on the other side, trying to get up to bluerzor. Doesn't quite hit, but lands the apprehend afterwards. Misses the decimate, one back away. I don't know whether LDLC want to keep chasing. They are going very deep here. I think that's going to be the end of it for now.
Again, what we're talking about, the more dragons you have, the more time you get.
Jackspektra cleanses, still fighting. The whirling death comes back on corner. He's down. That's Eika with that one. Yike coming for the flank. He's in that black mist, looking to get forward. The renewal holds him in pace, but the ace in the hole. Yike shut down by Zwyroo. That Victor, oh, so deadly. Low health bars now from LDLC. They're going to teleport Aibo, who's just respawned. How deep are they going? There's not the best ward. bluerzor looking for the flank, does not have flash. Maybe, just maybe, they can keep pumping. The Event Horizon will prevent the easy follow.
Oh, they're going to go the long route. Look at bluerzor. They don't want to stop.
God.
Ragnar's going to try and flank as well. Aibo's over the wall.
That Caitlyn trap was so good, preventing the easy follow. The Event Horizon coming down again. Oh my God, the damage onto Eika. Deleted in the mid lane, or the bot lane, I apologize. It's been all over the map so far. Heretics even up the kill score. For gold, it's 500 apart.
Oh my God, it's just back and forth, isn't it? They're just trading blows straight up. The only difference really now is that Heretics have the advantage in the Dragon department. They are one away from Soul. Look at this Event Horizon.
I feel like every time I mention the word dragon, a fight breaks out. So I might use it just for a little bit more of attention right here. But Jackspektra missteps, goes a little bit too far forward, gets altered in the face by the Veigar. And Yike missing that Q crucially right there meant he's dead. So that's 2 kills that are going over, one kill that's going over to both teams, and bluerzor starts chasing. Event Horizon is going to stop him, but he's going to wrap around the jungle. But very crucially, Ragnar has always been shadowing this entire fight. But Heretics will keep chasing and they'll get another one for themselves. Now, obviously, I thought right here, having 2 members down and with Yike spawning, you could maybe run it towards that Baron, but you never want to take the 50-50 when the jungle has just respawned.
Now that Victor is 3-0. Building towards what looks to be a death cap, and with that Banshees Veil, can actually potentially get through that first line of zone control and continue to do what he was doing just there, which was delete people, apparently. And it is getting to that point where, for all the tools we've seen from both sides, it feels like every time it's been neck and neck in terms of the kills. The discrepancy now, though, is that Heretics have got...
Jackspektra just stole the blue buff across the map.
All right.
Observers, can I take a look on the top quadrant of Heretics jungle, because it is lit up in blue wards and blue side vision for Heretics right here. If LDLC pull the trigger to try and start something like the Baron, which is the big objective on the map right now, if you want to finish this game with how much wave clear there is on both teams, you need that purple warm buff. They have plenty of vision, so they do not have to face check to try and get in for a fight versus LDLC. And LDLC, which with their composition, with the Vegas, with the Caitlyn's, you want to be first to the play. You want to be setting down these traps. You want to make sure that that one road that you've left open for your opponents to walk through, Vega's going to be taken care of.
You know, one thing I really want to note as well, LDLC can probably murder the Baron over the wall, with Heretics actually not having too much of an idea that that's going on, just for reference. So I wonder if LDLC actually catch onto this at some point. Let's say, like Heretics, for example, they tunnel onto the Cloud Soul. Maybe you just go trade it for a Baron.
It's very OP, man. What can I say?
Look, now, whilst I will say...
Here we go.
Oh, never mind. Ragnar wants a 1v1.
It's a two-level discrepancy.
Aibo doesn't.
Yeah, that's the ghost. And Ragnar, despite those level discrepancies, feels like he's feeling this one. Gonna start trading off. The Infernal Chains are dashed away from Ghost, still running. Ragnar would love this. Misses the apprehend.
I got TP though, full display.
Wow.
So if LDLC do not force the issue right here, they've blown the Ghost from Ragnar's Darius, which a Darius with not a Ghost can very hardly teamfight, especially when you have so many tools to keep him away from the sort of Heretics. And also blowing that teleport from Eika is going to hurt the crossbar play a little bit.
Well, indeed. You know, keep an eye on Yike's inventory as well. He's gone towards that Blade of the Ruin King again on this AD champion. Eponymous, of course, for Viego, but all the same, it does help out with that Baron rush you were saying. Between the Darius, Caitlyn, Viego, that's a pretty quick Baron take if they get the opportunity, though.
Like, all they really have to do is just send Yike over the back of the wall with Heartbreaker and do it. I'm just saying. Like, it's a very, very fast Baron. And right now, it's just the control ward at the moment, which can very easily be cleared away. But Heretics, they want this Cloud Soul, and I think when we've got no engaged tools on both sides, actually, the out-of-combat movement speed is pretty high value, getting to places first. It's one of those unquantifiable values that you can't really always immediately see, but if you're always noticing Heretics first to the play, it'll be small things like this, and LDLC are trying to cause the issue.
So many champions who would love the move speed. Yike, though, hits up with the Infernal Chains down to half HP. It's Heretics holding court in the river, and they're looking to dethrone the LFL first. Take them out in playoffs. 1-1 the game scores. Both these teams looking to secure a match with BDS Academy. LDLC actually calling the bluff, heading towards the Baron. You said it was quick.
LDLC are like, screw it, you can take your Cloud Soul away. We're gonna take Baron because this is what's gonna end the game. The Baron, more minions. The fact that the Victor is not gonna be able to one-shot the wave.
bluerzor. He's gonna try to get in range. That's a decent event horizon, but the jungler's still in the pit. Down, smited. Baron secure, but can LDLC escape? So much XP! Whirling Death secures one, but what about the rest of it? Ragnar trading with bluerzor. I'm not sure you win that one versus the Draven. Knock into the wall, though. Keeps him low. Yike into the back of. There's in 3 members trying to survive. Flash over into the pit. Jackspektra gets that one. Massive kill for him. Aibo wants it. It's a 3 versus Aibo, and I think Aibo might win it. Event Horizon will pull them away. They'll get the Baron, but lose 2 in trade alongside the Cloud Soul.
And I simply ask for this trade because LDLC, they're the ones that are harder to actually move into. So if they have the Baron and they can try to set up a siege, I don't mind them trading the soul for this as long as they get immediate value, right? Cloud Soul, it's not a combat soul, it's all of, well, outside of the art part, but it's not really a combat soul, it's about getting to places first. And honestly, it's only really Aibo that abuses this soul in combat heavily, so I don't mind this trade happening at the moment. Again, it's just about what you can get from it because...
Oh, Exakick.
That fight massively backfired from LDLC.
Yes.
They wanted the Baron, they wanted to siege. That's the only way you win this game with not a lot of engage. With sieging power, you've got the Caitlyn, you've got the Event Horizon with the Veiga. You can create space, allow the Caitlyn to take down towers together with Baroned up minions. But Heretics abused the soul that they just got, sprinted it down after they took the soul.
Why are you doing this one? It's a 3v1. Ragnar's coming over, does land the Glacial Fissure. That might keep things a bit more even, but overcomes the Whirling Death and so much damage down onto the Brawl, who's melted. Who cares about permafrost? And Aibo on that Aatrox begins to run rampant. Yikes looks for the reset, but instead just becomes food for the meat grinder. Heretics come out with 3.
Oh, we talk how difficult it is for Heretics to find openings, and LDLC are single-handedly giving them to them.
Silver player!
Yeah, they're playing into the jungle, they're playing into the strengths of something like a Poppy that can stun you into the wall and keep you there forever. And Dos, way too overextended. He's trying to shadow for the Caitlyn, of course, it's in the mid lane. But the second you find one intruder in the jungle, they're never gonna be alone, and Poppy thrives in these jungle fights. Everyone from Heretics comes in and LDLC are scattered across the map. By the time more members arrive, half of them have already died.
It's just an overstep from Dos. What are you doing? I like your call on this, very much. And Heretics, they wipe most of the Barons off of the members of LDLC. And look at the Baron power play. It's a power play, just maybe not for them, unfortunately.
Reminder,
you come up with like 2,000 gold, 1,500 gold for getting Baron in the first place. So
Yes.
it's a massive swing.
It's so massive, man. And now, the one thing I guess we kind of have to naturally focus on now is just Elder. It's 3 minutes. What's the setup going to look like for that? I don't mind talking about it this early because it's a game-ending buff. Again, I would still favor LDLC if they make it to the river first. But so far, we haven't really seen that level of setup come to fruition. Ivo
has an Umbral dash and a way into the pit, so is fine for now. But I kind of agree with you there, Jamada. So many tools if you can set up first, but that's just not being the case. And Heretics have been so good about ensuring that they do not lose vision control where it matters.
I was literally about to point this out when they wanted to go for Baron. That bot quadrant was fully lit up. Look at the quadrant bluerzor is in right now. It's fully lit up with blue wards as well. This is the side they want to play through. This is where they have Jackspektra. They make sure he stays safe. He's not with them though. And the LDLC are bounced up on the 5-man unit. They know because they see Jackspektra on the side. They can force the issue.
They can really control this choke here if they decide to with the event horizon. There you go, force Heretics further back, get the tower, disengage.
Now
Job
you're going to start losing inhibitors.
Yes, that's the only problem.
Here.
I mean, Jackspektra getting all the gold, he's so powerful at the moment. 4 items.
Teleporting back. That will be the AD carry going away, but Ivo,
they're forcing it.
they're going to try and play this one in 4v4. Big setup on Ivo, but now Yike and Eika caught out in the Baron pit. Eika down to 50 HP. Will get the GA, but nothing else. It's a 1 for none right now, all the while inhibitor turret stands at the very least.
This fight that comes after this pick, potentially, depending on what Heretics want to do, because they've got this wave in the top side. Looks like they don't necessarily want to use it. I think the waves clear the way just about enough for LDLC to call this a reset.
Oh my days! Both teams have been trying so desperately to find the advantage. Is it Jackspektra? Holds his ground, tries to stand and deliver. This time nothing comes bad, and it is edge of your seat action. It's popcorn. It's a Michael Bay special, and it's looking like it will be explosions all over the rift. Trying to find the first kill. Shut down in favor of Ragner, but it's a 1 for 1. Jackspektra cashes in and will get a kill on to DOS. Ike is still dead, but has teleport. A minute until the Elder Dragon. Are you not entertained?
But Heretics have always been using their numbers disadvantage to win time for someone on the side lane. In the mid lane fight, it was Jackspektra taking all the way down that bot lane, all the way to that inhibitor tower. This time is Zwyroo onto that Victor on the top side of the map, pushing in constantly. They're using these fights in these choke points to try and win as much pressure as possible for the one that's split pushing the map. And if they do manage to get a kill through that, that's pretty good. That's a freebie for them. Now, of course, we mentioned how Heretics love to fight through these choke points because they want to use the power of the Poppy. But right there, bluerzor overextends a little bit, gets caught by the apprehend, pulled back into all the LDLC members, and they ended up trading 1 for 1. But the true winner right here is bot lane wave was pushing, Zwyroo was pushing top side of the map. So Heretics, again, coming up with a W.
The waves were set up, so now Heretics are here first. And look at the vision. Do LDLC even have vision?
They've got 1 ward.
Nothing. The river is practically darkness. They've got that controlled in the bottom side, but that doesn't really give you much. Heretics right now, they're looking for mid lane priority because they know they can force LDLC into them. It's giving them the best choices for team fights at this moment. Now the Elder spawned up, and LDLC, they've got to force through a lot of poke from Jackspektra from Zwyroo.
The House of Dragon's been airing on TV, and I tell you this, the jungle is dark and full of terrors, and it's full of an Elder Dragon that's being started by Heretics.
So fast.
LDLC need to get in. They need to be a rage tri-steal. They're going to try and immune the ultimate, but he's down! Yike! Steal the Elder! Just like that! But he's still going to lose his life, but what can the rest of LDLC do? They want to trade it out. The Chaos Storm comes down, but it is a moment of heroics, a moment to hold on in the game. What a steal!
Yike might have just kept LDLC in this one. If they pick up the Elder, Heretics, you have to imagine they just look for a fight and end. That flash inlay was so clutch.
Baron is up. LDLC can literally force the issue by going on to Baron. Heretics have to stop them. We mentioned Baron is the winning play right here. Having the siege minions because of how much wave clear is on both sides of the map.
How good is Yike? He immuned the Poppy knock away with his ultimate to flash in and steal the Elder. This guy is just too clutch. 3, 5, and 3 does not do justice
Heretics
for
surely
his
don't want
clutch
this.
plays. They're going to try it. They have got the 4v5. They do it so quickly. He can try stealing. Watch for the W. Not secured quite. Heretics secure the Baron, and they'll now try and get out of here. My days, this game could not be closer. Let's have a look at the replay, and Yike pulls out the steal of his career.
So again, LDLC are completely choked out of the play. You see that Aibo is on the flank. They know they have vision on Aibo, so they cannot walk in. They're all stuck into this choke point. Yike is like, F it, I'm gonna try to steal it for my team. Jumps in and does steal away the Elder Dragon. LDLC, huge props to them for being so patient and actually pulling out of this play to not lose that win condition that Yike just created for them.
F stands for Flash. Yike uses him to perfection and keeps LDLC alive in this game. Still got a little bit of time, can't quite secure the Winter's Bite or the Concussive Blows passive to lock down the Aatrox. Yes, the kills look good for Heretics, but my days, the gold is close. Close enough at this point in the game to not matter a damn.
My word, so true. And even Jackspektra sold his boots. He's a 6-item Draven at this point. He is so damn strong.
He's got a Karma, he's got a Cloud Soul, he's got Mikhail's.
The problem right here is that Exakick still has that Elder Dragon still running on him for 20 seconds. He can make a pick even on the Poppy. This headshot can take 50% of your HP. Guess what? You're only in on about another 20% and then you're executed by the Elder Dragon buff.
The big problem is, no one has Engage Tools trouble, so no one can even utilize it. And, well, it's gonna fizzle and we return to no mega buffs on the map.
Don't worry, man.
Don't know.
3.5 minutes, we have another Elder Dragon.
Hold on to your seats. It has been a turbulent, torrid, dramatic run through the EU Masters for both of these teams. 5-game series apiece. Heretics, the LVP, looked a little down and out after spring, and they come in and prove everyone wrong against the Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. They're looking to shove in here with the Baron buff and secure a 2nd-game win. LDLC, the LFL first seed, the pre-tournament favourites, looking to return after spring was such a disappointment in the finals. Now there was no Karmine Core. Now they were on the side of the bracket with no other LFL teams. And yet they're about to go down in this series, potentially holding on.
Jackspektra on the side, though, he could potentially get caught, so he has to run around and join his team. But you cannot do it through these choke points. Exactly, because this is the easy way for you to get engaged on or chucked out and maybe blowing the flash.
And you know what, LDLC, sure, not on the side of any LFL team. Do you know what they were on the side of? Every other champion in the goddamn bracket. So right now, Heretics proving their worth, and they are on the cusp of going 2-1 up. They've still got a fair amount of time left in this Baron buff. They've already got that middle inhibit. They've got the top side tower. The inhib should surely fall.
Oh, my days.
Great shield from DOS.
Uneasy rests the crown, indeed. The LDLC first seed from LFL being pushed to the absolute limit here in this game. It is so damn close, but it is Heretics with the shove. That Elder buff worn out now. 2 minutes until it respawns again. I need to hold on, do what they can.
Heretics are pushing the top side of the map with a minion wave. They're shoving in that middle as well. Look on the bottom of the map. Aibo is pushing yet another wave in. They've synced in 3 waves all at once. They're trying to force the trigger from LDLC. One mistake from LDLC, one step forward, and they're completely deleted. But don't forget, 1 minute to 40, another Elder Dragon coming up on the map. LDLC was lucky with Yike still to take that one away because the entire river was absolutely run down by Heretics members. Dogs on the side.
Drums in the deep, LDLC are coming, trying to get onto Jackspektra, who flash, cleanses away. Aibo looking to turn it around.
bluerzor!
Massive amount of damage, but bluerzor in the back end knocks one away. Flash for the heroic charge. Jackspektra picks up the first. Aibo picks up the second. 2 dead, and Heretics will claim a 2nd win here in this series.
LDLC 3 against 5. Can they hold off? I don't think they'll be able to anymore. Eika's gone. He's so much of their burst damage, and Heretics know this. They're on to the Nexus Towers.
A Shirelia's and Inspired to charge in onto Ragner. Darius cannot hold the Noxian Empire alive. He's executed instead of doing the executing. 2-1 Heretics.
And for anyone who does not want to see an LFL versus LFL final, a repeat from spring, must be cheering for Heretics. Because oh my days, are they playing for their lives. That was such a difficult game to play from both sides, don't get me wrong. No hard engage makes it so difficult for skirmishes, for brawls, for fights in the river. Yike tried his best, but it felt like that was the only gear that was moving this particular game for LDLC. Heretics had the upper hand. I think that Poppy came in clutch in these moments when you needed that button to either throw someone away or pin someone on the wall.
I think the lack of engage tools from both sides and the fact that Heretics time and time again were the ones that were effectively just there first, ahead of LDLC, right? I think just always utilizing priority just slightly better was pretty much a difference maker here for me. Even though Eika was pretty much just infinitely scaling, we never got to really see that big Veigar moment where he just deletes somebody and it actually turns into a Baron, turns into a Dragon. And I think the fact that this time around there was full Dragon stacking as well from one side and it wasn't split up was also the other thing for me. Again, a lot of it is rotating around the bottom side, but there's also the top side issue as well. So I don't know. This series couldn't be closer if it tried.
Game 3 tips just about in favor of Heretics. They lead this series as we head into a short break. Check out our Walnut Song of the Day, Your Number by Ramor. We'll see you after this one. I need to catch my breath. We'll see you in a minute or two.